loves. Welcome to a new episode of the AW Confidential podcast. Diversity and inclusion has been a hot topic for a while now. Undeniably, for millions of us in the country, it matters. Countless men and women have been left behind by recent changes made by the new administration. The impact trickles down in unimaginable ways. And today's guest has certainly felt the shift. Crystal Román is the CEO of Black Latina Movement, host of the Black Latina Summit, and curator for Talks and Tequila. She is a native New Yorker. She attended New York City's American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and in 2008, she launched Black Latina Movement and began performing a one-woman show about the lives of dark-skinned Latinas and African American Latinos, titled Black Latinas. In 2013, it became an all-female ensemble. The play has been performed at Penn State University, Lehigh University, the Smithsonian Institute, University of Southern California, and many others. Hi, Crystal.
Hi.
Girl, I had to shorten it. You have a lot of
It's
wins.
okay. Yeah, it's a lot.
Congratulations. I
Thank you.
mean,
Yeah.
what you're doing is just, it has to be acknowledged. I mean, especially now with, the just everything that's happening around us. The recent changes are impacting our communities, and your mission to spread awareness and empower Latinas has also hit a roadblock, which is why we're here. I
Mhm.
want to give you the space to share some of your challenges. But before we do that, I want to go back to the beginning, of course. What is Black Latina Movement about?
So thank you for having me on
Of
AW.
course.
Love it. Black Latina Movement is a space, a safe space for Black and Brown women to be a part of the art, the art industry and that culture. And so being able to provide a place for women in front and behind the camera or the stage, when we talk about having a seat at the table, when we talk about equity, really it's about creating that for our women. And so being a producer, being a playwright, being a filmmaker, saying, okay, representation matters, but it matters in a twofold way. So having actors and actresses that look like us and sound like us telling our stories, but also hiring the people to put together these productions. And so having writers, producers, sound people, lighting, anything you can think of. That's why I say behind the stage and the camera as well, because there's so many components that go into shows. So a lot of times you'll have an all Black show, but then everyone who's producing it is all white or all, a non-Black or non-Latino. And not that that can't work, because it can, right? Like one of my favorite movies of all time comes from a book, The Color Purple. And when it was created as a film, the director was Steven Spielberg. And so not that a Jewish white man couldn't tell Alice's story, but I think it's so much more impactful when it's coming from us, because there's certain nuances that only we know as Latinas, as women, as Black women, that we really could tell those stories in the right way. And so everyone, if you're an artist, you can tell these stories, but I also feel like because there is these inequalities, there's not enough of us telling these stories as well. And so it's art, everyone can participate, but I think it's really important for us to have that place as well. And so that's been my mission for the past like 17 years.
What first inspired you? What was it about, and it's different for everyone. Sometimes something happens and it triggers, for you to go on this mission. Sometimes it's something that is like it's personal, or sometimes it's something you observe. Like, did something happen? I just want to kind of get an idea of what was your inspiration for doing this.
It was everything you just said. I mean, I was really, I was young. I was right out of high school. I went to college, but I was going to the American Academy just to kind of spruce up my acting chops. I was like 18 years old. So I had been, I wanted to start acting. I really wanted to get out there. I was doing auditions. And from 18 to about 25, that time frame, like that 7-year time frame, I had, been acting heavy in New York City, was in different plays and different shows and touring with other theater companies and doing short films, and just realizing like I wasn't really feeling, it wasn't resonating with me, the roles. There were stories and women that we know in our community, so it's not like they aren't relevant, but I just felt like it wasn't enough. They weren't complex enough. They were very linear. They were just one-sided. They were just one voice. And I
Stereotypes,
wanted,
right? Too.
right, a lot of stereotypes. And so I wanted to feel like I was doing something that I could be proud of. And not that you can't be proud of a stereotype, because those are real characters, but I just felt like it wasn't enough. It
But we're
wasn't
more
exciting enough.
than one thing, right?
Right. And it just wasn't feeding my soul. It wasn't enough for me. Some actors, that's enough for them. And I get it, because it's also, this is a business. They have to pay their bills. There's other things that that are at play. But for me, I just really wanted more. And I was just like, really, you're young. I'm fresh out of college at that point. I'm like, really like wanting to sink my teeth into something that I felt like resonated with me. And it wasn't there. And so I decided to kind of write and get into writing and see what that looks like. And so after that, it was really like a snowball effect. I never set out to be an activist. I never set out to be a pillar in the community or somebody who was like, oh, I'm the face of. No, that was never my intention. It was like, oh, let me write a play and let's see where it goes. And then it kind of snowballed into everything else. And they say in life, like, you don't pick your path, God picks it for you. And so it was picked for me. It wasn't
Your
something that
mission picked you, right?
right. And so it was like, okay, I guess this is the road I'm going to go down. And I've been blessed enough to say, like, I've had a lot of success in it. So I can't complain about it either.
So I'm going to ask you something, because I feel that I think it's important to highlight this. So the play Black Latinas, it's about the lives of dark-skinned Latinas or African American Latinas.
Mhm.
What would you say to someone that said that you're excluding some Latinas?
So the play within itself, it's a universal story. Anyone can appreciate the show. I've had Asians, whites, I've had other people. If you don't fit into any kind of box to what society says you look like. So if you're a white woman that's thick, brown hair, brown eyes, you would appreciate the story because you're not thin, blonde hair, blue-eyed, right? The story within itself is about
And
people.
yes, please share a little bit
Right,
about the story.
right. So it's about Afro Latinas and Black Latinas have been marginalized and underrepresented in the media. And so a lot of the times when society thinks about what a Latina looks like, they think of Salma Hayek, they think of J-Lo, they think of Sofia Vergara. You're not thinking of women that look like myself or yourself. And then when you do have women that are on the other side of the spectrum, they're not casted for Latino roles. So Zoe Saldana, when she first came out, she was in the movie. I forgot the name of the movie, but it's a movie with Ashton Kutcher, and Bernie Mac plays her dad. And
Yes.
she's playing a Black woman and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful thing, but she was never really seen as a Latina. Same thing with Gina Torres, right? Same thing with her. Like, she says it all the time that, like, when she first started out, like, she's in 911, which is a big show.
Love that
But
show.
right, but she says it all the time in a lot of her interviews. They just didn't think she was Latina enough. And she had to work her way up to then get producer spots on shows where she could then speak Spanglish and code switch, and people would say, oh, wow. So because of that, we don't get to be seen in our natural spaces as our natural selves. There's this idea that you have to pick. If you're a lighter Latina, then you could kind of pass for the lighter Latina roles, but then that kind of ostracizes you from playing a Black woman or an Afro-Latina role. So there's this, there's this game that they've been playing for a while that you kind of have to pick. You can't do both. And so really my gift has been to put us in those places where we could be both. And we could be, we are part of the African diaspora. We are part of that world. And so we do have African ancestry. We do, a lot of us understand that we are Black women. But the people who are creating these shows and who are writing are very, one-sided or one-dimensional. And so for whatever reason, they can't wrap around their brain that like this exists. There are differences in all of us, right? Like even in the Latino community, right? Some eat habichuelas, some people say frijoles. You know what I mean? There's differences, but I'm always here to really celebrate our commonalities and what bring us together. Our differences are beautiful, and it's never to take that away. There will be significant differences with an Afro-Latina whose parents are Latino from a Latin American country versus an African American and Latina person. But overall, the Black Latina experience has a lot of intertwining and connective tissue. And I'm always here to kind of pull that out and for us to see that.
Because you mentioned that as well, what has been some of the feedback that you've received about the play when you visit colleges and universities across the US? And it could be feedback from, Asian community or the Black community or the Latino community, the white community. What type of feedback are you getting?
It's incredible. I've had white students. I had a white young lady in Penn State. I clearly remember it just because she was really nervous at the Q&A, and I could see it. And I understood it because it can get contentious. And she's like, what can I do? I have a privilege, and I know I have a privilege. I'm white, I'm a woman, what could I do? And so it's important, right, to have these conversations because there is allyship, and it's not, all white people are bad. That is not the story that we're telling.
100%.
We have allies in men, we have allies in white people, we have a lot of allies, and it's important to tell them like, listen, we do need your help. We do want your privilege. We can mobilize on our own.
I'm sorry to cut you off. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I think it's not mentioned enough.
Yeah. We have a lot of amazing allies, and they want to help. But to your point, I think because it's not mentioned enough, there's this fear of like, I don't want to get into their space. I understand. And us as Black and brown people, we've done a phenomenal job at mobilizing, but we are people. We're a human race, right? So it's important for us to be able to pull from our allies and say, you know what? Yeah, girl, you could do something too. Like, here, come on, it's not taking away from the bigger picture when you have allyship. So we've had that. We've also had some, contentious situations where like couples who were biracial have said, we're having some issues because my parents don't want me dating him, and I'm watching your show, and your show is giving me so much, making me feel so empowered to continue down this journey. The show does touch on a lot of different topics. We talk about like the natives and how they were robbed of their land here, the indigenous people. And we've had indigenous students like, I'll hear backstage someone sniffling, and I'm like, why is someone sniffling so hard? And when it's over, they were crying because they felt like they were seen. They had never seen themselves on a stage like that before. So we've also had African-American women. We were in Baltimore, Maryland, and we had African-American faculty member come and say, I had no idea Latinos were going through stuff that we go through. Like, I didn't think hair was an issue for Latinos. I didn't think color was an issue. I just thought that was a Black person
Well,
problem.
we have, what's your background?
Puerto Rican and Jamaican.
We have, I have a Dominican background. My parents were Dominican. We have colorism.
Yes.
So
yes.
But
I think because of this separation and thinking that Latino is Latino, they don't, like, a lot of people are still not understanding that we are not, Latino is an ethnicity. So you could be Asian Latino, you could be white Latino, you could be
That's
Black
true.
Latino. And so because of that, I think we've been separated. And that's also, systemic, that was systemically done that way, to be separated from our Black counterparts and our Black brothers and sisters, as opposed to being a part of the diaspora and saying we're the same. They just dragged us from the boats to different locations, but we're the same people. We just got dropped off at different places and we got mixed differently, right? Like whether you're in Haiti and you got mixed with West African and the French, or you're in Puerto Rico and there were indigenous Arawaks there with the Spaniards and the slaves, and now you're just this mixture, right? We're the same, but just the system has made people think that we're different. And so it is hard sometimes to connect with others in the diaspora, because it's like, oh, well, Latinos have their own thing, they're not us. And I could understand that. With the recent, election and everything, the numbers said certain things that made people really feel very distant from Latinos, because some made certain decisions that went certain ways. And so there was this idea of like, oh, you guys are whitewashed.
What's been the most like I want to say the most not shocking, but sort of it could be a learning moment for you throughout this whole process, because you go to all these different universities and you perform this impactful show. Has there been a moment where you've been like, wow, I never thought about it that way, or you learned something different or from anyone?
I think it's an interesting experience even getting to the different states. So a lot of the times when we are traveling, we're under the guise of the multicultural office, the women's office, the Black student union, the Latino student union. So there's a lot of excitement around when we arrive. But outside of that, depending on where we are, it could be a little uncomfortable. So there were times, like even when we went to Utah, where it was like, okay, have they seen brown people before? Because
Of
there's the
course, girl.
stares and the
Come
eyes and
on.
the little discomfort. And I'm like, maybe we'll stay in the hotel, maybe or there's times where we've went to I was at Arcadia, way up top in California, and they had just had an incident with like a white supremacist group that was around, like around the corner from the university. They had an incident. So there are moments where we go into certain states and cities where it's like, have you only
Girl,
seen Black and
I
brown people on
uh,
TV? You've
the,
never seen us in person?
2 decades. Yeah, I don't want to age myself, but a while ago, we did a cross-country trip. I did it with my ex-husband, and we walked into a restaurant in Wyoming,
Mhm.
and we looked at each other. We were like, "Yeah, we can get something on the go."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's like everyone's eyes
yeah,
just turned
yeah,
to you.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
not very comfortable, let me tell you.
Yeah, and you think, United States, right? And so like I'm a Northeast girl. I'm New York City all day long. And sometimes, so to your point, what I've realized is I've been very privileged to be in a place where my sister and my brethren is here, right? I up the block from where I live is a Dominican restaurant. I get my sancocho on Sundays there. I can go 20 minutes out and get some jerk chicken. I can go around the corner and get some
Yeah.
really great Thai food. Like New York is a melting pot, and that has given me that privilege, but it does put it into perspective when I go to certain places and I don't get that privilege. People don't know what certain things are, or the food, there's not enough, it's like a food desert and there's nothing of our culture there, or you're playing certain music and you're getting stared at. So for me, I'm very, New York is New York, right? It's like one of the greatest cities in the world. And it's a place that has been the home of some of the most impactful movements when you think about Stonewall or civil rights or Black Panthers or Young Lords. Everything, a lot of huge moments have happened in New York. Even the women's right, that suffrage happened upstate New York.
Yeah.
But I have to realize that that's not the rest of the country. And so like even when you watch TV and you see some of these polls and you're like, where are these people? But we have to, I sometimes can be a little bit too self-centered when I'm like, I'm in New York. And I'm like, no, there is huge parts of this country that are very different, that see us very differently. And it humbles me because I'm like, okay, I can be loud and a New Yorican and whatever. But when I go there, I'm like, this is a teaching moment for them. This might be their first interaction with someone that looks like me. And they've only seen whatever ghetto mess is on TV, right? So for me, I have to always have that in my mind and present the way that I feel like our women need to be seen, presented, and respected. And that's always like something I have to keep reminding myself, because in my mind, sometimes I'm like, but why? Like, it's 2025, get it together. And I'm like, no, I got to humble myself. I have to say, this might be your first experience. So hello, my name is Crystal. Like, and you know, that's just also me being like a loud Latina, like, listen, you gotta take it, you know, como si nah, like, this is what it is. But I have to also say, like, if this is your first time meeting us, I don't know what you've seen on TV. I don't know what you think a Black woman is. I don't know what you think a Latina is. But if this is your first time, then I wanna do us right. And that's a huge, you know, bearing to have, right? Because I'm not trying to hold the whole race on my back. But I do understand if this is your first time having an interaction or meeting someone, it can be a bit jarring.
And I don't know. It's almost like if you do have that experience, what impression do you want to leave of
Right,
Latinos? You know,
right,
that's the way I try to see it.
right,
So
right.
the production tours educational institutions.
Yeah.
And I can't let you go without asking you about this. How has the current change with the administration and everything that's going on affected the demands for your production? Because I can't, I mean, it's been a 360.
Yeah.
So how does that affect you? Because I think when we think about diversity and inclusion and all the programs, you know, we only think about the students and maybe the
Right.
faculty, but we don't think about all the things that, you know, it trickles down to. So
Yeah.
how have you been impacted?
It's impacted me tremendously. I mean, and again, me having to be humble because this is the first time in 10 years that we haven't been able to tour. All the universities had to rescind their contracts. They had to stop the show because they knew that they didn't want they didn't want any retaliation to be retaliated against if they were to take on a show like this, because it is federal funding when they do get money for Hispanic heritage, women's history, Black history. And so there was a lot of fear in that. And so because of that, like, we're not touring with the show to the universities. But for me, being humble and saying, I just had to pivot and be more on, you know, go more on the private side. So like working with working with theater companies in other states, like we're working with a theater company in Chicago to bring it to Chicago.
Good.
And so moving in that direction, in the beginning, it is impactful to see, you know, a loss of so much revenue that my company would have received. But again, being humble to say, I can pivot. What's worse is the students are going to suffer because now they're in a space that they can't get programming that's important and impactful to them. Higher education is about learning, about growing, about having fun events. Those are all part of the curated experience. And so I was like, woe is me, you know, licking my wounds. But then I was like, you know what, but I can still pivot and have my company and just find other ways of doing that. These students are now stuck with a different education system, a different syllabus that is going to take away some of the most impactful learning experiences, to not teach Black history, to not teach women's history, to not teach. That's insane to me. So I had to put it into perspective for myself because I was like in a depression. I was like, this is crazy. I've never had this experience in 10 years. And touring is like a big part of not just our bread and butter, but it's just a part of what we've done. We truly
And you
enjoy.
touch so many people and
Right.
young people. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. And so, you know, I had to take my moment, right? Like, your mental health is important. So it is important to be present and to say, I'm allowed to feel these feelings. I'm allowed to be sad, but then to reframe it and say, let me put this into perspective. These kids are now in a 4-year, 2-year, whatever their situation, wherever they currently are, under this administration, being, banned by even reading certain books. And so for me, once I had the moment to just cry and let it out and keep it moving and just, reorganize and collaborate with other organizations, I really started to feel bad at that point. And it wasn't about me anymore. And to think about some of the students that I know yearn for this type of programming and they won't receive it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, I think learning the pivot
Mm-hmm.
is so valuable.
Yes.
So valuable.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know,
Yes.
I think you did the right thing. You gave yourself time because it's I mean, I can't even begin to imagine. We're all feeling some kind of shift, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when it starts affecting your livelihood, it's scary.
Yeah. Very.
So, I'd say give yourself some grace because,
Yeah.
it's going to impact you first. It's going to hit you first. You're going to
Yeah.
feel it first.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you're right. It's really sad that the students won't get the benefit from that. But
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it'll change again. I mean, it's,
Hopefully,
cyclical.
hopefully. When you really think about the arts, like even Lin-Manuel, he pulled Hamilton from the Lincoln Center, not the Lincoln Center, the Kennedy Center, because there were issues there. And it was supposed to, I think they normally do
Yeah.
like a run every couple of months. And he
That
pulled it because he wasn't in agreement with what was going on. And so that's another thing for us too. We have a lot of power. The Black and brown dollar is huge. And I think we need to start thinking about what that means and our contributions to this country and what we've built and what we've done. And, look at what's been going on with Target, and like they've been losing money. And I think
I
it's a
I saw
very,
I saw a post the other day where someone posted something that said it was like a product post, and the person in the community said, "I want to buy your product, but do you sell it anywhere other than Target?"
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and
So
I think it's important. It puts things into perspective for us, like having, understanding that we have a lot of power, and maybe we haven't really thought about the impact of that, and maybe they haven't either, but like we have a lot of power, and I think it's time for us to kind of mobilize and shift. And yes, the first quarter was catastrophe and we were sad but I think it's time for us to kind of pull up our bootstraps and say, let's get this together, because we could really create a shift that would really change the trajectory of what we look as and how we feel as Americans and part of this country, and what we could do. And I think that is where we should be shifting to.
and there are a lot of contributions. And talking about contributions, Black Latina Movement is about building community and
Yes.
sharing experiences.
Yes.
And you are also the curator of Talks and Tequila.
Yes. Yes.
So I want you to share a little bit about these events because I think they're important and they bring
Yes.
community and they're gatherings, and you should,
Mhm.
share with us a little bit about it.
So Talks and Tequila is really fun. It's a get up for women to get together and to laugh and have a good time. I curate the space front to back. It's Latina, or it's Black, or Afro Latino, or Black Latina. And so we get together, I pick a venue. I make sure from top to bottom. So the venue, the food, the music, everything that's
Oh,
part of that
wow.
experience is someone that looks like you, that sounds like you. And so I'll get a venue that might be Black owned or Latina owned or whatever may have you. We've done it in art galleries. We've had it in sip and paints. We've made body butters. We've made candles. And we get together. And yes, there is alcohol involved, but we also have
No, really?
mocktails. We also have
Oh, you have
mocktails.
mocktails. Okay,
So
great.
if you don't drink, that's fine too. And we'll have food. Sometimes we'll have empanadas. Sometimes we'll have like different types of finger foods. And so we'll have a charcuterie board. And so we'll get together and we'll just have a good time. We talk about anything you want to talk about. I'll curate some questions. We'll have some fun games. And it's really just a way for us to we call them decompress and address sessions. So decompress whatever's been going on, whatever you want to talk about. Sometimes it's easier to talk in a room full of strangers than your own friends, because you might feel like you're being judged. And so it's really a no judgment zone, and we get together and they're great. Like sometimes I'm even like, I really needed this Talks and Tequila. And so I curate the conversations, but I never know what's going to be said. I also open up the floor to people to put in their own topics. And so it's always great. Even if there's like weird moments, I think it's important for us to be open to being with each other. And a lot of times there's always this like idea that Black and brown women don't get along, or like there's competition. And that's never the case when you come to an event. A lot of women will leave and stay friends or connect with each other. A lot of times I'll be on social media and I'll see women, I'm like, oh, and so that's the idea, to create a sisterhood that we could expand on, and we can grow and come to another Talks and Tequila, or just grow with what you currently have, and just to share in our community with each other.
How often do you do them?
I try to do them at least once every 2 to 3 months. We
Okay.
go to different cities. So New York is the
What?
base, and we have them in New York. Yeah, but we've been to Orlando, Atlanta. We did one in Newark, New Jersey. We're going to Chicago. We're going to Texas. We'll be in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. And we're going to Orlando again. So yeah, it's great. Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations. It's
Thank you.
such, I mean, when we're in community, I think it's just that alone is an uplift, right?
Yeah.
And just being able to connect with others, especially in today's kind of climate,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's super important. And I'm glad you've been able to find even another vehicle to
Yeah.
help the community connect. And that was that pivot after like everything that went on, or?
No, that pivot was a COVID pivot. So during the
Oh,
pandemic, because we couldn't have live shows, we were trying to figure out ways that we could like link with our women and community. And so we did a poll on social media, and it came out. People wanted to have some people wanted to have serious conversations. Some people wanted like a ladies' night, kind of like after work drink vibe. And so that's where the summits and Talks and Tequila came from. So the summits are more formal. The summits are only online, though. They're free event, and we discuss a specific topic. So we'll have like Black maternity, mental health, and therapy, and then we'll have experts in those fields. And the beauty about that is that it's free. These experts normally pay. So if you were gonna sit with a fertility specialist, you would have to pay. She came on to the summit, and she gave as much as she could for free. And you just come on, and you see the summits. Talks and Tequila then was more of like an informal thing. And then when we came out of the pandemic, it wasn't something that could sustain online like the summit could.
no.
And so we started to have them in person. Yeah.
I love that. That sounds amazing. Well,
Yeah.
you're doing so much, just so much good for the community.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful because I learned so much today.
Thank you.
And I even though we're virtual, I literally did connect with you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Now,
Thank
I love to end interviews on a positive note. And a
Yeah.
lot of this, you know, conversation, I think for a lot of people can be heavy. I feel that I put together this podcast because I want us to have truthful conversations, just like
Mm-hmm.
unfiltered, because I think that's such a great way to learn from each other, to connect with each other, and to use the truth as an empowering way. So
Yeah.
thank you for your honesty and your transparency. I love it. I loved
Thank
my
you for
time with
having
you
me.
today.
Thank you for having me.
So more than ever, we're building community. You're doing that, strengthening relationships and cultivating unity. I think these things are all key for a better tomorrow, and we need it now more than ever. And I think we have to move more towards the positive because there's so much negativity out there. So, can you share some ways that you stay in positivity that can maybe help us in these extreme times of change?
Yeah. Put down the phone, like get
Oh,
off social media.
oh my God. Yeah, that's detox. I don't know. I don't even know where to
um,
start.
yeah, some time just to get off. I mean, not
Disconnect,
obviously
right?
Disconnecting is important.
Yeah.
Disconnecting is good. Just taking time to just take a breather. It's like trauma porn. Scrolling.
Girl,
So
that
much.
doom scrolling is real.
Yeah. So there's that. Meditate, even if you're not into prayer, but just meditating, just taking time to just think about what your week is going to look like, what you anticipate, what you can do, positively to kind of enter the week on a positive note. I notice like when I do that, it kind of sets the tone because things will come my way. But if I just remember my little session, I'm like, you know what, girl, you got this. Being positive, affirmations, healthier eating. I've just really been trying to do that. If you're in therapy, try not to miss any sessions. I think these are all great ways. Self-care is not something that we learned growing up. Especially in Latino and Black households, we were caring for everyone else that we never cared for ourselves, and we feel guilty and almost selfish. And so always taking time, even if it's 30 minutes in a day, to just for yourself, even if it's just another 20 minutes in your shower, whatever that looks like, taking that moment, because it's so important. We fill so many people, and then we're left so empty. And that causes so much more issues. A lot of the stuff that we're hearing about women's mental health with cervical cancer and this and that, a lot of it is that we have not been taking care of ourselves, and not because we're not eating well, but we're so worried about so many other things that we're missing appointments, or we're not really digging deeper, or we're not seeing our specialists, or we're not. And we really have to take the time to say, I need to take care of me and not feel bad about it.
Absolutely, 100%. So I think I'm on the right track because I'm doing all those things.
Good.
So one of the things that I love to do before I let everyone go is to ask a question. I've never looked at these questions. They're in a box and they stay there until I take them out. Are you okay with one?
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see here. Interesting. What is the most adventurous thing you have ever done? Ooh, I like that.
Wow. Adventurous thing. Wow. The most? I have a couple. I can't
You have a couple? Give us a couple.
Well, I think creating this was like, I'm bastante vieja now. So if I was
What are you talking about? You're like what, 25? Come on.
I made it 25, and that was 17 years ago. So you go do the math. So like, I would have never done this, ever did it. Sometimes even when I'm reading my own words in the script, I will revise it, but still, like, that's a 25-year-old thought. Wow. And I'm reading it and I'm like, who wrote this?
That's awesome.
I have to say that, some of the things, I think being a disruptor, like even in our families, like sometimes, adventure, like being the first in my family to go to therapy and being okay with it and saying, hey, I'm in therapy. And people are like, what happened to you? It's like, nothing. It's just the right thing to do. I think there's a lot of fun things. I think when we think about adventure, we think about this big thing like, oh, I went on a solo trip to, China, and that's great too. But I think some of the things that we do in our everyday lives are great and adventurous, and we have to kind of like pat ourselves on the back about them more. Like, I think things like that.
I love that. No, those are great. What, are you kidding me? Thank you for sharing that. Therapy is a lifesaver. I swear by it.
Yeah.
Crystal, you're amazing. You are you are a gift. Make sure you let us know how can we find out more about you, Black Latina Movement, Talks and Tequila. I love that name, by the way.
Yeah. So they can follow the IG page, Black Latina Movement. It's the full, 3 words spelled out. And then in the bio, you can see the website, you can see all the different other pages. So you can find Talks and Tequila there, the summits there, the plays. And so you can it's easier to kind of navigate that way, but you can follow us on IG at Black Latina Movement.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Continued success. And just keep doing your thing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you, loves, for joining us on this amazing episode of the AW Confidential Podcast. Talk to you soon.